I'm Sam from Cultaholic, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each little bit of grade from A+ to F. Now, I was off last week, so I've had a lot of catching up to do, but I think I've got it all in order, in my head, ready for this week. So without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. So we kick things off this week with Sasha versus Bayley in a WWE SmackDown Women's title match. And pre-match, Kayla is at the curtain at Gorilla, and she's talking to Bayley. And Bayley reminds us all that Sasha's never once successfully defended a women's championship. She says that she hopes Sasha's had a great 13 days as champion, but all that's going to be left afterwards are those commemorative shots they took of her at the pay-per-view. So this one starts off with both women going for control. Sasha actually goes for an early bank statement, and Bayley peels out of the ring. This happens multiple times throughout the match. Bayley's just trying to distance herself from Sasha. When we come back from the break, though, essentially, Bayley is like on the apron. Sasha baseball slides through and then just yanks her leg, and Bayley face first straight into the apron. Looked like she landed pretty hard. It looked brutal. Sasha then sets about on the destruction of Bayley. She's got her out on the apron, propped up against the ring post. She comes charging in with some knees, and then she goes for it again, and Bayley just sort of puts her legs out, lifts her, and hurls her to the floor. Bayley then tries to beat Sasha down and just grind her into the mat, but Sasha is able to break free with double knees, and she goes for another pin attempt. Bayley then eats a huge Meteora before peeling out of the ring again. Sasha's having none of it. She comes diving out with a crossbody, wipes Bayley out. There's then a little bit of back and forth here on the outside, with Sasha even getting Rana'd into the commentary table. And then Sasha just comes out fighting. She connects with like a step up sort of. She jumps off the ring steps with a huge elbow to Bayley, whose like neck is just draped out over the apron. She even hits a frog splash, which Bayley kicks out of, and then Bayley's almost able to get the Bayley to belly. Having had enough, she peels again to the outside, and she fetches a kendo stick, but she does it in clear view of the referee. She knows what she's doing. The referee snatches the stick away, and he turns around. He's like, "Mr. Timekeeper man, let's have a chat." And he turns his back for about 20 seconds, which allows Bayley to get that chair, the chair that's been the center of this whole feud. She goes to strike Sasha with it while the ref's back's turned, but Sasha connects with a knee, I think. She drives the chair right back into Bayley's face, and then the referee turns around. This isn't enough to keep Bayley down, though. She sneaks a backstabber, she hits a Bayley to belly, and even gets the elbow, but it's just not enough. Sensing that she has to go big, Bayley then commits the ultimate insult. She locks in the bank statement on Sasha herself. Sasha is panicking. She's trying desperately to get to the ropes, but she's able to roll through into, I think it was a pin attempt, and then out of that, a little bit more back and forth before Sasha locks in a bank statement of her own, and Bayley taps. Sasha has finally defended a title. And as Sasha is celebrating a hard-fought win, she's on the ramp, she's lifting the belt up. Out comes Carmella, super kick, and then plants her into the stage before just posing over a prone body. I'm going to give this one a B+. I thought it was a nice enough little match with some good moments of drama and some good interaction both in and out of the ring. Sasha looked almost the underdog in certain parts and then outclassed Bayley in others. It was very back and forth, but ultimately Sasha has defended that title. Now we have Carmella, and we're going to move forward. I mean, I don't think this is the end, like the definitive end of Sasha Bayley. I think that the Carmella feud's going to come in. We're going to see something fresh and new and exciting, and then eventually we'll circle all the way back round, probably come Mania. I know it was confirmed before SmackDown as well, but we got a little vignette here hyping up the fact that Survivor Series is the end of The Undertaker, apparently, and I'm going to be a very, very sad boy. And then we go to a Jey Uso interview with Kayla Braxton, but just before this, there was like a weird little interaction before we had a small break. Jey is at craft services, he's making a coffee, and Kevin Owens comes up, and there's just a little bit back and forth with Owens insinuating that maybe Heyman should be getting Roman's coffee for him, not Jey. And it's just a little jibe, like just a little bit of a funny, little bit of a joke, you know, but ultimately, you can see Jey's quite conflicted. He's quite protective over this whole situation. He doesn't want to look like an idiot or feel like he's being used in that way. So he's quite clearly like, oh, shut up, man. It's worth noting as well that Jey insinuates that Owens was maybe insulting him and his family. So just a little bit of the Roman spice going in there now. And that's going to sort of come full circle by the end of the show. But But anyway, yeah, Jey's talking to Kayla, and essentially she just wants to know what the hell happened last week. Why did you attack Daniel Bryan? He's like, look, I feel really bad. Like, Daniel is a friend. He is a friend of mine, but Roman is family. He apologizes, and then it's sort of similar to Owens. He thinks that Kayla's maybe made a little jibe there, and it's insulted him, and it's insulted the family. And then Paul Heyman just rocks up, and he cuts the interview short. Heyman says that Roman didn't actually sanction this interview, so it shouldn't really be going ahead, so let's just end it here and, you know, call it quits and move on. And then Kayla suggests that, you know, why, like, who is Roman to say that Jey can't talk to me? And Jey, again, takes offense a little bit at that situation, as if she's insulted Roman. We then cut to Rey Mysterio backstage, who is furiously trying to ring his daughter, and then Dominic pops up and he's like, Dad, your match is next. You've not even got your gear on, you big silly. What you doing? And Rey's like, oh God, yeah, Dominic, go get my gear. And as soon as Dominic turns his back, Baron Corbin rocks up and beats Rey down. And then we go back to Jey and Heyman, and they're stood outside of Roman's, you know, his big boardroomy office, the very, very expensive looking dressing room that Roman has. And Paul tells him, he's like, look, you know, man, if you want to do this sort of stuff, I commend you for wanting to do it. It's great, but you need Roman's permission. And he's like, oh, I need Roman's permission. I want to talk to Roman. He's like, you want to talk to him? He's like, I want to talk to him. And then Jey motions as if he's going to go into the locker room or the dressing room, whatever the hell you want to call Roman's big fancy room. Motions as if he's going to go in, and Heyman's like, Roman will speak to you on his time. He's like, I'll go have a word with him. And then out comes Roman. So Jey's not even allowed in the dressing room with Roman. Roman then tells Jey off for stepping out of line, chastises him a little more, and gets into his head a bit about Owens. He's like, you should have stood up to Owens. You really should have stood up to him. And then Jey walks off, obviously clearly conflicted in his head. And then Roman directs his attention to Heyman, and he tells Heyman off as well. And Heyman is really snivelly here and apologizes and stuff. But essentially, he says to Heyman, you know, you should be doing your job. This sort of stuff shouldn't be happening, and it's just causing me stress. He also adds that he wants the Owens situation sorting out tonight, and he requests that Heyman goes and finds Adam Pearce and makes it happen. Next up, we have a Survivor Series qualifying match, and it is Rey Mysterio fresh off his beatdown against Baron Corbin, fresh off delivering that beatdown. Rey comes down with Dominic, and Dominic sort of got his arm around him a bit, and Rey's clearly worse for wear, but he's in his gear, he's ready to go, you know, he's here, he's gonna wrestle the match. Bell rings, Rey goes sprinting at Corbin, and then Corbin catches him and starts destroying him. That's pretty much how this goes in the opening stages. Things turn a corner for Rey when he's able to sidestep on the outside, and Corbin goes flying into the ring steps, but then out comes Seth Rollins, and he just stands on the stage and sarcastically keeps applauding for Rey and cheering for him and things like that. When we come back, Rey just carries on that comeback. He's really trying to get the flow going, and Dominic is stood at the very bottom of the ramp just staring at Rollins, very much acting the guard dog here. Rey manages to springboard into Corbin, but Corbin catches him into this brutal looking backbreaker, and then again he just starts the slow destruction of Rey Mysterio. Whenever Rey then tries to mount a comeback, Corbin stops it, and quite definitively when he stops a comeback with a world's strongest slam or thereabouts. But after a monumental beatdown, Rey's able to sort of put enough distance between him and Corbin, get him into the 619 position, and he almost hits it, but Corbin peels to the outside and decides instead to attack Dominic. Eventually though, Rey is able to hit the 619, and this is where Rollins attacks Dominic. Rey jumps out of the ring to try and save his son. It all kind of breaks down. Murphy and Aaliyah come running down. Rey tells them to leave, and then when he gets back in the ring, following all the confusion, he eats an end of days, and Corbin advances to Survivor Series. I'm going to give this one a B-. I think the nature of the storyline here leans a lot more into shenanigans, and it's getting a bit convoluted, and it's really dragging on, but at least it seems to maybe be coming to a head. We'll be a little bit more on this later, but it seems like it might finally be reaching the summit and we can all move on. The match itself was full of drama, and really it was kind of one-sided, but I think when you put it all in as a total package and try and be a little positive about it and take off the, you know, this storyline's been going on for 90 million years hat, then there is some good to be seen in it. And next up we go to Ruby Riott versus Natalya versus Zelina Vega, and this is another Survivor Series qualifying match. Ruby and Zelina got jobber entrances, but this is something I feel we've seen a little bit more of since the draft lumped us with two story-heavy feuds that are sort of occupying the show. I think it was, you know, I don't think it was malicious. I think it was more like, oh my god, we're already 5 minutes behind. Just get out there, get out there, get out there. It opens as every triple threat does, with everybody jostling for control. It just sort of goes backwards and forwards. There's a really nice moment early on, though, when Natty locks Ruby into a surfboard, gets her all the way up, and then Zelina sneaks in and tries to pin Natalya because she's currently locked up holding the move in position. Corey gets a cheeky less than Jake reference in, good lad, and then Natalya goes for an early sharpshooter, but it's to be broken up by Vega. With Riott dumped to the outside, Vega tries to take charge here, and she goes back and forth with Natalya only to get caught into a sharpshooter. So as she's being sharp shot, or however you say sharpshooted, I don't know, out of nowhere, in a triple threat match, Ruby Riott dives in, and instead of breaking up the hold in order to secure her chances and stop Vega tapping to Natty, she applies an armbar while Natalya has the sharpshooter in position. Now, you know, sometimes when the Hearts have been sitting on a sharpshooter for ages and they throw the leg down and they're just frustrated, that happens. Natalya sort of breaks the hold, or at least it seems that way because the tap comes afterwards. Natalya breaks the hold and then Vega taps while she's locked in the armbar. So Ruby Riott wins the match. Natalya turns around, she's like, what the hell? This means Natalya once again fails to qualify, and it means that Ruby is going to advance to Survivor Series, where hopefully, you know, we can see some featured time for her start to take off. I'm only going to give this one a C because I thought it was just a little bit all over the shop and the ending was a little bit too convoluted for my liking. The idea that Natalya maybe, because in my head the way it went was that Natalya didn't break the hold because she thought she'd won, she broke it, you know, because she got frustrated. In my head, you know, she would have felt Ruby Riott, you know, locking that armbar because she comes in pretty fast. She dives onto Vega and it's like Natty just pretended she didn't know she was there. I don't know how that works, but you know what? As I said, it's entertainment. Let's just sort of accept it, move forward, and hopefully, as I said, this means a little bit more featured time for Ruby Riott moving forwards on the blue brand. We then go to Big E backstage and he's playing Trivial Pursuit with just, I think, a member of WWE staff, and then out of nowhere pop up the Street Profits and they invite Big E to the Champions Lounge. They said they took over the lease from Cesaro and Nakamura, and he's like, yeah man, yeah. And then they hint that they want some inside information sort of about what to expect at Survivor Series when they take on Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. And Big E's like, okay, let me just tell you, if you guys get in the ring and lie down, they won't mess you up too bad. And then they all sort of laugh and it's like a tense sort of, yeah. And then Billie Kay appears. Billie gives the Street Profits an 8x10 with her CV printed on the back, or resume if you're an American, printed on the back. And she's like, you know what, if you want some inside scoops on the red brand, you know, I'm somebody that can help you with that. And they look at her just confused. They're like, come on, we were on Raw at the same time, and you know her information's obviously not going to be fresh to them. And then she just awkwardly kind of walks away. Next up we have Otis versus Rollins, and it is another qualifier for Survivor Series. The Mysterios are also watching intently around a screen backstage. Otis is put over here a little bit by commentary as having nothing left to lose, and he just essentially plays the immovable object to Rollins for quite the bulk of this match. So Otis gets the better of the opening exchanges, and then down comes Murphy to ringside. So Rollins is clearly quite distracted by the fact that Murphy's there. He's not quite sure of Murphy's motivations. He doesn't know what's happening, and he's clearly playing on his mind because he just keeps playing the pinball to Otis. Otis is just flailing him around, and Rollins is occasionally fighting back, and then you'll see Murphy and he'll sort of be rocked again, and it's sort of that kind of dynamic. So after we've been through Seth making a break and Otis dropping him repeatedly, Murphy jumps up onto the apron. He looks to Otis, he looks back at Seth, and then he looks to Otis, and Otis is like, nah, not having it, and he goes to knock him off the apron, only for Murphy to jump back and sort of stand on the outside. He doesn't want anything to do with it. This unfortunately allows Rollins to hit a super kick and then a stomp to pick up the win and advance to Survivor Series. And then post-match, it's sort of, there's an ad break and then we go with this promo, but I'm just going to lump it in here. Post-match, Murphy is walking backstage, and Rollins like running from ringside to the backstage area to catch up with him. So Rollins is kind of desperate to find out from Murphy, you know, is he back on Rollins' side? And Murphy eventually, after a little bit of silence, goes Messiah and points to Rollins, and then points to himself and he goes disciple, and he does that a couple of times, and Rollins is super happy. He's got him back, and it's, you know, back on side. It's like, the Mysterios don't care about you, I've always cared about you. And then Rollins leaves, and then Aaliyah shows up and she's really angry with him, and she's like, what are you doing, you idiot, like what's going on? And she's properly having a go at him, and he's like, no, like like, you don't understand. I've got it under control. I know what's happening. Don't worry. So he's like, I know what I'm doing. You just need to trust me. It's for the greater good. This one gets a C+. It gets the plus simply for the promo being tacked on there. I thought the promo was a nice little touch. It's sort of, I'm trying to review this more like a soap opera than wrestling, because the matches seem pretty inconsequential. They seem to just move things forward in the feud, and the quicker we can move it forward, the quicker we can get toward the end. It has been going on for quite some time, but hopefully Murphy's little plan here, which is, I'm assuming that he's going to make Seth think he's on his side and then betray him. Murphy's little plan here is hopefully going to pay off, and then it's done. Hopefully it's done there, and that is it. We then go to a sit down with Michael Cole and Freak talks about how much he doesn't like bullies, and how like he got bullied and picked on and no other kids would do anything about it, and then he went away and put on a load of like muscle, and then he was like, then I got to be the bully and I bullied everybody. I could make them eat things. I could make them eat glass, dirt, bugs. I could go, ah! And I just thought the irony here was off the charts. And then we go to our main event of the evening, which is Jey Uso against Kevin Owens. And again, Kayla is at the curtain where she's talking to Owens. And Owens is like, you know, I think this has all just been blown out of proportion. I sort of, you know, things just come out of my mouth when they pop into my head sometimes. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cause offense like that. But that's what happens with me, because I'm my own man, unlike Jey Uso. And then he runs him down a little bit before promising to deliver a beating. And that's going to come at the hands of Kevin Owens, who is his own man. Owens takes charge as Roman is watching on from backstage. But whenever Jey manages to find his feet, Owens just keeps planting him, and Roman, seeing this, sort of looks to Heyman and he tells him to go down to ringside. Even when Jey is able to find his feet and put enough distance between him and Owens, he's caught, hurled into the barricade and hit with a splash off the apron. Uso takes charge, and once again Owens steps up and brings it back, but Heyman starts to come down to ringside as Jey hits a huge dive to the outside. Back in the ring, Uso hits a super kick, but he's clearly fighting emotionally. He's fighting angry, and this allows Owens to hit 2 super kicks of his own before a huge senton bomb, and Heyman on the outside is starting to look very, very concerned. Jey even gets dropped with a pop-up powerbomb, but he manages to just get his foot on the ropes in time, and then Roman's music hits. And then this is where it gets really interesting, because Roman's music hits, naturally everybody looks to the ramp, including the referee. This allows Jey Uso a moment of time, and in that moment of time, he chooses to headbutt Kevin Owens right in the crackers. This allows him to hit a super kick and an Uso splash and pick up the win, and then post-bell, as he's walking, Roman's music hits again, out he comes, and he wraps his arm around Jey at the top of the ramp while holding his title, and they're celebrating, and now you can tell Roman finally sort of trusts him. He's become what Roman wanted him to be. I'm going to give this one a B+. I really liked the idea of Jey in a little bit of a mismatch situation against a much stronger singles competitor, well, stronger, like a competitor with more history in a singles division, and I like that Roman had to almost act benevolent. He sort of had to throw that little red herring in there with his theme in order to allow Jey to win. This will bring Jey closer to his torturer in the form of Roman, because Roman has looked out for him there. But not just emotionally as well, it brings him closer to Roman in the sense that he cheated to win. So as I said before, he's become everything that Roman wanted him to be, and you can tell he's still sort of conflicted, but I guess we're going to find out in the coming weeks how he behaves in promos, his natural behavior, that sort of thing. We'll get more of a flavour for how this is going to go. I also can't wait to see how this is going to go down at Survivor Series, because both Uso and Owens are on the same team. 2 weeks to go. I don't think they're going to patch it up anytime soon, do you? Overall, SmackDown this week gets a B-. I think it was a fair enough grade for it. You know, it's been long-winded in some places, it was short-winded in others, and really, as I said before, I think the problem here is that we've been not lumbered, but we've been sort of given these 2 storylines that are quite dominant and quite huge, and we have to cram both of these into a show now, when traditionally we'd maybe just have the one big mega storyline going on. So it's leading to just a lot of quicker stuff, and everything feels a little bit more crammed, but hopefully once the Mysterio storyline's on cooldown, things will start to return to a bit more of a normal pace. But this has been graded for Friday Night SmackDown. What did you think of this week's show? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.